Hey, we got a check engine light on this truck, and we're gonna figure out what's going on and hopefully fix it, maybe. Stay tuned. Okay, so I am gonna use this VP code reader to figure out what the codes are on the vehicle. I think I know what one of them is, because I checked it before I had grabbed this. And how did I check it without a code reader? Basically go on Google and search it. That's what I'm gonna tell you. It has to do with turning the ignition on, hitting the gas pedal 3 times, waiting for the light to blink, then you hold the gas pedal down, and then once it starts flashing, you can let it go, and then you watch how many times it blinks. If it blinks 10 times, it's a 0. If it blinks 3 times, it's a 3, etc. Alright, the plug is, if you just go here, go straight down, it's underneath there. So that's where the plug is. We're going to turn the app on the phone. Alright, so I'm using an app called Car Scanner. And you can do all kinds of stuff with this app. I kind of made a video on it. Okay, so I got the Car Scanner app open. I got the phone connected to the OBD2 Bluetooth reader, the VP one. And now we're just going to see trouble codes. Okay, so far we got a P0101 air suspension. I don't have air suspension. What do I have an air suspension code? So far the only one I'm worried about is a P0101. P0101, that's your MAF airflow sensor, so it could be just a dirty sensor. Alright, so I cleared the code and I want to see if I get any readings from this MAF first. I'm getting air intake temp. I'm getting MAF readings. So I think it's good. I don't know why it's fluctuating so much. That might be an issue. Let's go check the wiring and see what's going on. Don't see any breaks in the wires. Everything looks fine there. I do think the most likely culprit of this having any kind of issue is going to be this right here. You can see the MAF in there, right there in that center hole. That's your MAF sensor. So I may just try and clean it out and see what happens. So the reading's kind of stabilized out. 3.8, 3.9, that seems like where I think it should be right now after it's warmed up. Today we're going to be cleaning out the MAF sensor on top of the truck. I'm going to show you how to do it. This applies to all Nissans, not just the Nissan Frontier, not just the Nissan Pathfinder. Although those two vehicles will be identical what I'm doing, the concept is going to be the same regarding which Nissan vehicle it is, and pretty much any car platform that uses a MAF sensor, which is like most of them these days. So there is 2 things you're going to need. One is a way to clean the mass airflow sensor, which I like to use the CRC stuff. I've used this for years, never had any issues with it. You want to use one that is labeled for the mass airflow sensor because you do not want to mess up that sensor. Those sensors are expensive. A lot of times when you have mass airflow sensors, a lot of people will then replace a sensor when all it really needs is just to be cleaned. Always try this first. These bottles aren't cheap. They're like 10 to 15 bucks, but it's cheaper than spending over $100 for a sensor. Nissan makes this one really easy. The screws here are just a regular Phillips. Some cars will use a security Torx, which is kind of a pain because you got to buy a security Torx set, which you can get those at like Harbor Freight. So the first step is going to be taking the sensor off. So all we got to do is press down on this middle tab and then yank it outwards. There we go. Alright, sensor's disconnected. Now we got to take the sensor out. So all we're going to do is take the screwdriver, unscrew it. Be sure not to drop these bolts because you will probably never find them again. I'm going to put them in the safe place right here. Don't let me forget that's where I put them. And doing this is super easy. So this is kind of like regular maintenance. You should actually be doing this, you know, I don't know, every 60,000 miles, 100,000 miles. That's the sensor. Typical Nissan style. So all we really got to do is spray cleaner in there in the direction that the air comes through. Also, a side note is that you can take the whole assembly out and spray it while it's in the assembly. You don't have to necessarily pull the sensor out if you can pull the whole housing off and then spray it that way. I like to just pull the sensor out. To me, it's easier. So here's the sensor. That's where the air goes in. That's where we're going to be spraying it. Be careful not to touch anything really on the sensor that you don't have to, just the top portion. That's good. We're going to let it dry for a minute and then we're going to spray it one more time. Pro tip, when you're spraying this and you get it on your fingers, don't rub your eyes right after. It hurts. Alright, so the inside looks pretty dry, so let's spray it again. That's it. It's going to take a few minutes for this to fully dry. Once it fully dries, we can stick it back in. Alright, so the sensor is fully dried, so we just got to stick it back in. Just be careful not to get any dirt back in there. There's my screws. Yeah. So you gotta remember, working on cars, it's like nuts and bolts. You're not fabricating stuff. You're spinning a screwdriver, you're spinning a ratchet. It's super easy. And there's so much information out there how to do stuff. Not like back in the day when, there wasn't the information as easily accessible. You had to kind of like learn on your own. Now you get to learn from other people's mistakes instead of learning from your own. So that's kind of cool. Let's plug this back in. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to end up doing a data log. I'm not going to show it on top of here. I just use a VP Bluetooth adapter to get my data log. I got a video on that if you want to see it. So yeah, easy. Just get a can of this and then get whatever tool you need to get these two screws off. Pretty much all the same. They're all going to be in some kind of housing here. This is just your intake pipe. That's your throttle body. Your intake pipe here. And then somewhere between your throttle body, that has a little flappy thing that opens, to your air filter will be this. They can get dirty for several reasons. One is if you're not changing your air filter enough. The other is, what I think my issue is because I like to run K&N filters, there's oil in the filter. Some of the oil gets sucked in and gets on top of the sensor. So if you got a K&N filter, you're going to need to clean this a little more often than what you may not if you had a dry filter. I got a video on the K&N filter, how to properly clean it. So go ahead and check that out. So yeah, shoots. But that's all I got for today. Thank you for watching. Aloha. Peace out. Catch you on the next one.